And I will welcome you once more to First Parish Church of Kingston for this November 1st gathering. I am the Reverend Monica Jacobson Tennyson. I serve this church as its minister. I use she, her pronouns. And I want to introduce to you our worship leader for today, Matt Meyer. Matt is a lifelong Unitarian Universalist with a long background as a musician and worship leader for UU congregations. Matt lives in Boston, but when we're not in a pandemic, travels as an itinerant worship leader, bringing the good news of Unitarian Universalism to hundreds of congregations all over the country, and travels by Zoom when we are in a pandemic. He serves as the Director of Operations for Sanctuary Boston, a contemporary UU worship community with rockin' music and engaging worship. Matt is also a founding organizer of the UU Song Leaders Convergence, a gathering for all UUs who love community singing to share skills, best practices, and of course, songs in order to build a more musical movement together. We are delighted to have Matt with us this morning. To move us into this time of worship, I want to invite you to light a chalice, a candle, tap the Worship Web app on your phone, whatever you have handy. When we light our lights in all of our places, we make a constellation of love and justice. And I think we all know that more love and more justice are sorely needed in the world today. So let these points guide us and all those whose lives we touch toward a better world. I'm going to turn it over to Matt, who has some music for us. And I'm going to place in the chat the lyrics for what's coming.
Well, this song, Blessed Motion, was written by Annie Zylstra, and she wrote it when she was inspired by the words of Martin Prechtel, who spoke of what it was like to have survived an earthquake in Guatemala. It was a devastating earthquake that leveled whole villages, and he spoke of what it was like to see the ground beneath his feet, that which had always been so permanent and so solid, suddenly rise up in motion. He said that the myth of believing in solid ground is a myth believed by those who live on the earth rather than as a part of it. I know in the last few months of this pandemic and amidst all the other crises of this year, I've often felt like I've been trying to find some way to be grounded, even as the ground beneath my feet is constantly shifting. That's been true for you. I invite you into the spirit of this song, the spirit of going in motion with the earth around us. There's a low part and then a high part, which is call and response. For all of our music this morning, I invite you to sing along in whatever way feels most comfortable for you. That while we might not be able to hear each other, we can still sing together, we can still breathe together in unison. And so please try singing out. Try out some new harmonies maybe that you might not have been so bold to try if others could hear you. I believed in solid ground until I saw the earth in motion, in the winds of steady change, and the ever-rolling ocean. All moves on in perfect motion. All is change and ever rolling ocean. All moves. We'll do that whole part 2 more times through. In perfect motion, all is change and ever rolling ocean. All moves on in perfect I believed in solid ground until I saw the earth in motion, in the winds of steady change, and the ever-rolling ocean. I believe in solid ground until I saw the earth in motion, in the waves of steady change, and the ever-rolling ocean. I believe in solid ground until I saw the earth in motion, and the waves of steady change, and the ever-rolling ocean. I believe in solid ground until I saw the earth in motion, and the waves of steady change, and the ever-rolling ocean. I believed in solid ground until I saw the earth in motion, in the winds of steady change, and the ever-rolling ocean. I believed in solid ground until I saw the earth in motion. Well, thank you for helping out and singing along. Our service today is about music lessons. Not learning music, but what music has to teach us about the rest of our lives. And so I'd like to share a story for you all called Woodpecker and the Forest Band. If there's any particularly young folks, I invite you to come up to the front next to the screen. Once upon a time, there was a woodpecker. Woodpecker loved pecking on the trees and looking for little tiny bugs to eat in the bark. But even more than those tasty bugs, the woodpecker loved the sound of the trees. She loved how every tree made a different sound. She loved the resonance and the rhythm of them. Now once the woodpecker was looking for food and enjoying the sound of the tree when she heard a sound she'd never heard before. Doom, 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 doom. The woodpecker looked around and she saw a frog sitting by the pond, making that beautiful sound. She called out, "Hey, who are you?" "Well, my name's Frog, and I sometimes like to sing to myself. I heard the sounds you were making and, well, I just started singing along. I hope that's okay." "Oh, it was wonderful," said Woodpecker. "I love the sound of the trees, but hearing your song together with my rhythm made something new and beautiful. Hearing the two parts together, well, that made all the difference." After that, every week they would get together and make their sounds. One day when they were tapping on the trees and singing their frog sounds, they heard what seemed like maybe a cricket in the grass. rubbing her wings together, making a beautiful new rhythm, unlike what they had heard before. And then other animals began to come along. There was a couple of giant elephants that heard the sound, and they wanted to join in too, stomping on the ground in rhythm. There was a squirrel that found some seed pods in a tree that sounded just right. And there were birds that wanted to sing along in those trees. Each animal had enjoyed making their own music, but when all the sounds came together, well, it made all the difference. And they noticed that their forest band sounded best when they all did something different, but everyone could be heard, and everyone added something new to the sound. They noticed that each animal made the prettiest sounds when they were listening to all the other animals very carefully. Then, one day when they were rehearsing at their regular weekly jam, there was a chimpanzee that joined in and started playing on a hollow log. The chimpanzee made so much noise that no one could even hear themselves playing anymore. The chimpanzee just played as many notes as fast as possible without even stopping for a moment. Everyone stopped playing and just looked at the chimpanzee. "Well, I love making music with you all," said the chimpanzee, but none of the other animals really said anything. Needless to say, rehearsal ended a little early that week. One by one, the other animals flew and slithered and swam and trotted away until it was just the woodpecker and the chimpanzee. The woodpecker decided that she probably needed to have a talk with chimpanzee. She said, "Making music isn't just about playing loudly. It's about listening to the other animals around you. You can't make music if you don't listen to the other sounds the animals are making. Music is about the rest and the silence as much as it's about the sound and the vibration. We need both." Together, woodpecker and chimpanzee tried playing notes and then leaving some space. And then playing some notes and then leaving some space. And wouldn't you know it that even chimpanzee thought things sounded better that way? Finding the way our sound fits into the whole, finding what unique sound is ours to add, well, it made all the difference. So thank you for helping me with the story of the woodpecker and the forest band.
I have a reading to share with us this morning. This is the poem "Breathe, Said the Wind" by the Reverend Lynn Unger. "Breathe," said the wind. "How can I breathe at a time like this, when the air is full of the smoke of burning tires, burning lives?" "Just breathe," the wind insisted. "Easy for you to say, if the weight of injustice is not wrapped around your throat, cutting off all air. I need you to breathe. I need you to breathe. Don't tell me to be calm when there are so many reasons to be angry, so much cause for despair. I didn't say to be calm, said the wind. I said to breathe. We're going to need a lot of air to make this hurricane together.
On the day we are together again, on the day we are together again, I will pull you in close like a hoop with no end. On the day we are together again, we will share the same table again. We will share the same table again. I will pass you the salt, the candlelight will bend when we eat at the same table again. Someday we will go back to work. Someday we will go back to work. May we be among people who respect our worth. Someday we will go back to work. I will help the strangers I meet. I will help the strangers I meet. It is possible to get back on our feet. I will help the strangers I meet. I will write you a letter for now. I will write you a letter for now. Hope is a message that survives somehow. I will write you a letter for now. To the healers that keep us alive, to the healers who keep us alive, a toast to your knowledge, your courage and light, to the healers who keep us alive, and the ones who we love who are gone, to the ones who we love who are gone. We remember the stories, we sing the songs for the ones who we love who are gone. On the day we are together again, on the day we are together again, I will pull you in close like a hoop without end. On the day we are together again, on the day we are together again. Communities of faith like this one were made for times like these. These are times when things are changing fast, when the future is uncertain, when the headlines are dramatic and unpredictable, when crises of climate chaos and white supremacy are colliding in our country and in our communities. Dear ones, what a year this has been. What a year we should assume at least it will continue to be. In times like these, I imagine that part of the way forward is by paying attention to what we pay attention to, not to ignore the hard parts, and also not to ignore the need for rest and renewal. One of the central ideas of music, one of the main things that makes music different from noise, is tension and release. The harmony and the melody, the rhythm and the form of nearly all the music you've ever listened to are structured to give you a feeling of having gone somewhere and then returned home, to create some small amount of discomfort and then relieve it with comfort again. You can get a sense of this if you sing the song Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, but end on the word you. Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you. It's unresolved, as we say in the music business, until you eventually hear that last note, R. That unresolvedness, it's like a feeling you might get if your roommate or your spouse heads out the door in the morning, and just as they're leaving, they poke their head back in and say, hey, are you around later to check in about something that's been on my mind? Uh-oh. You might get a little uncomfortable. It's unresolved. Your eyes might widen a bit. You might even look around the empty room around you, just trying to figure out what has gone wrong. Lately, this is how I feel every morning when I check the headlines. This is the tension. But then, hopefully, comes the release. In music, this sublime moment of arrival. It might come at just the right moment at the end of a long symphony when at last the right harmonic resolution arrives, bringing us back to the tonic. Or it might be the bass finally dropping at just the right moment in a dance hall. The best music provides this sense of having left home, being challenged in some new way, growing yourself with a nudge of discomfort, but arriving comfortably in your bed before the end. To be clear, tension in music isn't to be avoided. It's what gives music life. The tension and discomfort of new things is how we grow, but we need the release as well. This is what makes the best music the best. I think the best lived lives are likely to have an element of this as well. Always growing and stretching, while balanced with a sense of stability and security. Afflicting the comfortable and comforting the afflicted, always in turn. In the book of Psalms in the Hebrew Bible, there's a word found over and over again, Selah. It shows up 71 times in the Psalms, so it seems important, but scholars don't necessarily agree on what it means. Many of the Psalms were originally sung, and they are in some ways a sort of lyric sheet that's been passed down for thousands of years. So amidst the debate about this word, one of the more common ideas is that it's not really a part of the text at all, but instead it's a cue to the choir or to the music director doing the singing. Something like pause, or maybe breathe here. The Psalms run the gamut of human emotion. Grief and celebration, anger and praise, love and lamentation, all bunched up next to each other. But over and over again, in the midst of them all, is Selah, tension and release. Selah, balanced amidst the rugged emotional terrain of the Psalms, reminds us, do the hard thing, do the uncomfortable thing, do the thing that stretches you, and remember to breathe. Fight for justice, give generously to the front lines, offer your time and your talent, and remember to breathe while you do it. Many of us have gotten a message somewhere along the way that the tensions in life should be minimized or avoided. Some of us have gotten the message that some feelings are off limits, even. Some of us got the message that it's okay to be angry, but not sad, or maybe sad, but not angry. Some of us got the message that we're allowed to feel worried, but not afraid, or alone, but never lonely. Some of us ignore these disallowed feelings when they rise in us. The result being that we never fully experience the tension that is always with us in a full life, and too often that we never find the release on the other side. I've certainly heard other men talk about how, as young people, we learn to hold back tears, which has certainly been a part of my own story. And now, as adults, many of us feel like we've lost the ability to cry altogether. The result, I know, is that when sadness rises in me, I sometimes worry that to allow myself tears would open a flood that can't be undone. That if I give in to emotion, I might never stop. Sella is a reminder that there is something on the other side. If you're struggling with anger or fear or loneliness this morning, pause, breathe here. There is something on the other side. When I first heard this song a few months ago, on the day we are together again, I was sitting at my desk working through my email inbox, and without warning, in the midst of my to-do list, I clicked on a link in an email from a friend, and it brought up this song, and I was suddenly and unexpectedly broken open. The song caught me off guard with a wave of grieving that I hadn't allowed for myself since the pandemic began. It was a deep dive into the tension of these times, the losses, large and small, that have just piled on top of each other these last months. And it was, in turn, a release. When the tears stopped, I breathed with a depth I didn't know I had been missing. These days, our hearts are certainly full. Some of us are gripped by isolation and loneliness. Some of us are in mourning for the loss of loved ones, for police violence, for devastating financial hardship. Some of us are anxious for going back to school or for staying home. Some of us are anxious for seeing our family or for not seeing them. Most of us probably are anxious for an election that seems still so far away and so soon, an election that weighs on us like an anvil. I've been told that good spiritual practice includes doing something every day, every week, every season, and every year to give yourself time for rest and renewal. I think some folks describe these times of renewal as the religious life. They say that spirituality is about taking care of yourself and making space for those deep breaths, making time for rest and connection amidst it all. I disagree. The spiritual life is all of it. Like music, it is the release and the tension. It's the time for reflection. It is also the action. It is the music that is made beautiful by both the challenge of discomfort and the ease of resolution. So, dear ones, give yourself fully to the tension of these times, and in turn, give yourself fully to the moments of rest. Breathe deeply together. These are times for paying attention to what you pay attention to. These are times for breathing deep, and these are times for action, both. These are times for grieving the past and for imagining new futures, both. This is a time for paying attention to our fears and our anxieties, as well as connections and consolations, a time for self-care and community care, both, for solitude and solidarity. May you be blessed in your solitude and solidarity, in your care for yourself and for each other. May it be so.
Thank you, Matt, for that lovely homily. At this time in our service, we will receive an offering. There is about to be a link in the chat box to our online giving page. Please know that whatever it is that you bring to give as your contribution to our shared work will be most gratefully received. And we have music for reflection, which Matt is going to lead us in as we receive that offering. Those lyrics are also now in the chat box.
Let the life I lead speak for me. Let the life I lead speak for me. When I'm lying in my grave and there's nothing more to say, let the life I lead speak for me. Let the life I lead speak for me. Let the life I lead speak for me. When I'm lying in my grave and there's nothing more to say, let the life I lead speak for me. Let the friends I have speak for me. Let the friends I have speak for me. When I'm lying in my grave and there's nothing more to say, let the friends I have speak for me. Let the work I do, let the work I do speak for me. Let the work I do speak for me. When I'm lying in my grave and there's nothing more to say, let the work I do speak for me. Let the love I share, let the love I share speak for me. Let the love I share speak for me. When I'm lying in my grave and there's nothing more to say, let the love I share speak for me. Let the songs I sing, let the songs I sing speak for me. Let the songs I sing speak for me. When I'm lying in my grave and there's nothing more to say, let the songs I sing speak for me. Let the life I lead, one more time. Let the life I lead speak for me. Let the life I lead speak for me. When I'm lying in my grave and there's nothing more to say, let the life I lead speak for me. Let the life I lead speak for me. Beloveds, these are times for paying attention to what you pay attention to. So give yourself fully to the tension of these times, and give yourselves fully in turn to the moments of rest. Pause. Breathe here. Pay attention to your fears and in your anxieties, and also your connections and consolations. Attend to your self-care and your community care, to your solitude and your solidarity. Go in peace, go with love, and go and be blessed as you are a blessing to others.